Good evening and welcome to our June 22nd meeting. Call to order, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the June 22nd, 2026 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Could everybody rise as able for the singing of our national anthem? Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to the approval agenda. Are there any amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have two items that have been requested to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion, those being 11F, the resolution regarding Better Regional Governance Act, and item 11L, the resolution regarding the return to property tax reassessment cycle.
Thank you very much. So then moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meeting be adopted as circulated June 8th, 2026. All those in favor? Carried. We'll move to presentations and delegations. 7A, Human Rights Policy and Reprisal Prevention. Mr. Andy Szabo. In order to use the microphone, you just have to press the gray button. The red light will turn on and just speak into it for the public record. Additionally, we have 10 minutes for the presentation. Just the gray button and the red light will turn on and speak into the microphone because we do record. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're here today to address a fundamental problem in our municipal operations: a lack of administrative consistency, a governance gap, and a policy void that has left our residents without predictable public-facing protections. Our township's own accountability and transparency policy pledges that we provide good governance by encouraging public access and participation to ensure that decision-making is responsive to the needs of its constituents. A responsive, transparent government requires clear, predictable rules. Yet, our township maintains comprehensive internal human rights and harassment frameworks for staff, but it operates in a total vacuum when it comes to the public. There is no forward-facing policy guaranteeing a harassment-free, reprisal-free service environment for residents, taxpayers, or seniors in our township. There are policy contradictions, shifting rules, and reframed gaps. When a municipality operates without a public-facing baseline, administrative processes inevitably become arbitrary. This is what happens when residents attempt to raise serious human rights or service delivery concerns in this vacuum. The service request, for example, seniors attempting to access their own financial and building records. There's a policy confusion. In formal proceedings, the township has struggled to define its own process. First stating no human rights policy exists, then pointing to a generic corporate complaints policy as if it were interchangeable. There's a fact-finding contradiction. We have documented case where a senior administration testified under oath that no internal human rights review had occurred, only for internal memoranda to the mayor on the very next day to declare the matter fully investigated and dismissed. This is absurd. A complaint cannot be uninvestigated Monday morning and fully resolved by Tuesday afternoon. That is not public administration, that's time travel. That's like updating your henhouse calendar by flipping it upside down and hoping your eggs are gonna hatch faster. There's a pattern. What we are actually seeing is a pattern of administrative reframing, where serious human rights or service delivery grievances are squeezed into narrow technical boxes so they can be dismissed as frivolous and vexatious under unwritten guidelines. This is a conflict of interest and a corporate liability. Operating in a policy vacuum allows senior management to act as their own gatekeepers. If a resident raises concerns about administrative bias or reprisal, the current framework allows the same officials named in the complaint to control the intake, the timeline, and the dismissal. This is the administrative equivalent of letting the Fox investigate the security breach in the hen house, write the report, and then issue a press release declaring, oh, all the chickens are safe and also delicious. This is not just unfair, it is a corporate liability risk. In City of Toronto versus Josephs in 2018, the Divisional Court made it clear municipalities face direct liability for a poisoned service environment. Council here has a duty to have and enforce a public-facing policy to provide a harassment-free service environment for the staff, of course, and the residents. Why not? Conclusion is the task for incoming leadership. We proudly call ourselves an age-friendly community. Yet an age-friendly community does not create shifting administrative hoops, centralized supervisions, or unwritten gatekeeping mechanisms that exhaust its senior residents. With a major CAO transition underway, Council has a unique opportunity to correct this legacy void with participation by the public and the Accessibility Advisory Committee. We are formally asking Council to direct staff to draft and enact a public-facing resident human rights and anti-harassment policy utilizing a neutral, independent, third-party investigator such as the Integrity Commissioner, perhaps, without discriminatory fees, thereby ensuring that no senior official is ever again permitted to act as judge, jury over a complaint involving their own administration. If there are questions, I'm very happy to answer them. If there are no questions, I'd like to take the remainder of my time to pose 2 questions. Thank you.
No, thank you for your presentation. And I mean, you still have 4 minutes to converse, so questions, you can pose them afterwards. But if there are any questions or comments from around the table at present. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Mr. Szabo, for the presentation. Under number 3, conclusion, in the 3rd paragraph, you say, "We are formally asking council." Is there more than just yourself that is concerned about this? I'm just wondering who the "we" is.
Thank you very much. That's the problem right there. All you see is one person. I speak for the people that will not represent themselves or cannot. There was a story recently.
You don't have to hold it. If you click it, the slide will stay on here.
Sorry. There was a story, for example, about paramedics recently, and there was no policies, and they were afraid to come forward. Do you think it's easy for me to come here today? Do you think it's easy for many people? No. When this happens to people, they just say, well, nobody cares. I'm speaking for the silent majority, sir, and you should be looking at me not as a single person. And of course there are lots of people. There was the advisory committee was well publicized. There was a disabled person that was mistreated, or I'm not sure, I can't restate the exact details. But they were put on the advisory committee. They're not on there now. I can't even get a hold of anybody at the advisory committee. So I'm representing the silent majority, and I hope that you in council would do the same. You would be forward-looking, public-facing, and recognize that many people are not going to just come to you and try to protect their rights. That's what I mean by we.
Well, council can be intimidating. I do appreciate the courage it takes to get up and present, especially as an introvert perhaps who doesn't enjoy that. Are there any further questions of council, or did you have a follow-up, Deputy Mayor Lang? I don't know if you're...
No, I'm fine. Thanks for the answer.
Okay. And Mr. Szabo, you had mentioned you had 2 potential follow-up questions to us. And I should have mentioned earlier, we don't typically take a decision at the council. We receive it first. So we will receive this presentation, but no decision will be made this evening. But that's standard process. Yeah.
Well, of course, I do understand it. That's why I welcome the opportunity questions. That's a good question, because people will not. I mean, imagine paramedics, there's a whole group of them. And imagine, seniors by themselves. They're often overlooked. Everybody overlooks them. So the 2 questions that I propose is, why can't the complaints policy handle this? So you have a complaints policy, and the answer is because complaints policy is a general customer service tool. Human rights issues require neutrality, consistency, and independence. Right now, the people named in a complaint can control the process. This is not defensible legally or ethically. And the second is this about blaming staff or past leadership? No, this is about fixing a structural gap, not looking for blame. I'm not on witch hunt. We're not on witch hunt. We're not blaming individuals. We need a clear, public-facing policy that protects everyone, residents, staff, and council, by removing ambiguity and ensuring fairness. You need a defined process. You can't just have people making up ad hoc. You know, frivolous and vexatious, hey, throw it, gone. That was easy. The fox licking his chops. That's it for me. Thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to any questions. I'm happy to pass out my email address, and people can contact me for further details.
Okay. Are there any further comments and questions? I think the first one was the complaint policy right now is determined to be a general complaint policy, and then it's not human rights. And then the second one you had said was blame. It's not. It's about fixing a structural gap. Those were the 2 kind of questions
Right.
you
Well,
posed.
the idea is that the divisional court says you need to have a public-facing human rights policy. That makes sense. You have one for staff. What's wrong with us constituents? What's wrong with the public? We deserve the same protection, right? Harassment-free environment, reprisal-free.
All right, I think that's clearly stated. Does council have any further questions? All right, well, if you want to deliver your cards, we'd be glad to take them. And then thank you again for your presentation, Mr. Sabo.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So now we're moving into action requests. We'll start with 8A, Charland Recreation Center Capital Project, Perlins. It's Ms. Harbers. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved, the staff report 2026-63 be received, and that council authorizes a change order for the Charland Recreation Center roof and siding project for the additional cost of the purlin replacement at a cost of $260,000, and acknowledge the revised construction schedule for the project to accommodate the replacement. Ms. Harbers.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So I'm here with Greg Esdale from EVB Engineering, our engineer and construction administrator on this project. So we're here this evening to discuss the arena project that's currently underway here at the Charland Rec Center. A lot of the interior materials have been removed, and including the low E ceiling, which some people refer to as the tinfoil or reflective ceiling, and the main frame columns and rafters have been prepared and paint had started on those. So after more exposure of the structural supports, it's been identified that the purlins have significant rust and corrosion. So we will refer to photos here in the report as we're discussing, just for reference for council members and also for maybe people at home watching as well. So I will pass this off to Greg to discuss the challenges that we're facing and what we're recommending moving forward. And then I'll touch on a few things at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry Lynn. Thank you, everyone, for allowing the presentation tonight. I guess I'm going to talk about, can you hear me? A little closer? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about sort of three main areas. I'll discuss what a purlin is in case someone's not clear on what that structural member is in a building. I'm going to explain the observations, so the site observations that I've made on site. And as well then the reasons for our recommendation to replace the purlins. So first of all, the roof purlins. So if you reference the photo here, the main frame, so the frames that come up and across are the main beams or the rafters of the structure. The members that are going in and out of the page, that's the purlins. So they're spaced at 5 feet on center down the slope of the roof. The main rafters are about 20 feet on center, so the purlins are spanning 20 feet in between the rafters. This particular building has what's called Z-shaped purlins, so I didn't get it in the presentation, but that's basically what it is. The members are Z-shaped. It's common, buildings today, steel buildings today still use that geometry and that type of member in a pre-engineered building. They're in this building, they're 9 inches deep. They have a 3-inch flange, top and bottom, and they're about 1/8 inch thick, so 3 millimeters thick. They're not very, there's not a lot to them. Again, it's part of a pre-engineered building, which is an economy type building, so they're not constructed with a lot of extra capacity. They're meant for economy. Now this building's 50 years old and it's lasted well. I guess the observation, so then once we had the roof, so once the low E ceiling was down and all the purlins were exposed, I was able to get in with a lift, so there's 10 and a half bays So I spent a considerable amount of time in on scissor lift, up and down, looking in each of the bays. And it's noted with the photo here is that's like the bottom flange of one of the purlins, or one of the many purlins that we noted a lot of corrosion like this. Not everywhere, but there are many areas, isolated locations, some worse than others. It was particularly bad down the center of the rink, like in and around the ridge, like the upper part of the roof. There's a swath down there where water must have been leaking in, so there's quite a bit of corrosion there. And then as well on the outside, on the eaves of the roof, where possibly from ice damming or other means, there was leakage there. So we're seeing a lot of corrosion there as well. So also, as you can see in this photo here, this is the bottom flange. So again, sort of this area here, we're looking down on top of the flange here. And not all areas were painted, so we all know the light blue paint that's out there. Some areas of the purlins were not coated, like this area on the top of the bottom flange, and as well on the very, very top of the purlins is just primed. It was not painted, and it didn't have that paint to provide the additional corrosion protection. So that was another observation. So the reasons then, so getting to the reasons for our recommendation, the primary is the effects that the corrosion could have on the structural capacity of the purlins. So knowing it's only 3 millimeters, 1/8 inch thick, a loss of, it doesn't take a lot of loss of section to drastically affect the capacity of the purlins. So that's the number one reason, is some of the purlins are affected structurally and would need replacement. The other reason, the new roof structure is directly fastened to the top of the purlin, so we're putting a new roof on it. In 5 or 10 years, if there's additional corrosion, or we felt we had to replace, or we tried to replace the purlins at that point, it would be very difficult. You'd have to take off large sections of the roof, likely void the warranty on a new roof. So that's the other reason. The other reason is we have an allowance in the contract. So when it went out for tender, we had a lot of pushback from the contractors in not being able to price the preparation, like the sanding and the preparation of these purlins, because of course it wasn't visible. So in discussion with them back and forth, we decided to add it in as an allowance so that the preparation of the purlins would be completed under an allowance. We had a $75,000 allowance to prep the old purlins and to paint them. So we've used up, the main beams, the big columns and main rafters are, they're prepped and mostly painted right now, but we've used a large amount of that allowance that we had. So now to continue and prep the rest of the purlins would far exceed what that allowance is. So we would be spending money on coating and trying to coat and reuse the existing purlins. So that's another reason. And finally is just quality control. Like if we have new purlins, they're going to show up from the shop primed. And then at ground level, in a safe and a better controlled environment, we can paint them at ground level before they go up. So in the end, we're going to basically get a better product and painting. But yeah, that's basically the summary of why we arrived at the recommendation that we're making.
If you don't mind, I'll just, through you, Mr. Mayor, just continue on with a few notes, and then we can certainly answer any questions. So as mentioned in the report, we did reach out to our major user groups, including Charlene Minor Hockey, Charlene Skating Club, and the Glengarry Brigade, regarding potential delays on this project, just keeping them updated on what's happening. We've been sending them about like monthly updates, and then also we can reach out to our neighboring municipalities about their arena ice time and availability to put them on their radar as well. Just with our regional networking group, sometimes it helps with getting that word out and getting the support from them. So obviously, right now, we're looking at the end of October to be able to do this additional work. But obviously, the portion of the project is weather dependent as well, so we're still in the month of June. So we're looking at end of October, but we'll continue to keep user groups and council updated, obviously, on this. And then for the budget, as mentioned in the report, the cost of this additional work would still be within the project budget of 2.4. And just to clarify about the funding, I know I had a few questions about the funding that we're receiving, the Community Sport Recreation Infrastructure funding. So we received 934,360, and the funding was up to 50% of the project costs, up to a maximum of 1 million. So we would still be utilizing that entire amount, plus obviously adding this amount, but the funding isn't covering that extra amount because we've kind of maxed that out already. So we'll leave it to council for questions.
I'll go Councillor McDonnell, then Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Esdale, is it not possible? I know you've said there's some in spots, maybe some considerable deterioration of it. I mean, I know they're not all that thick, but could they not be like sandblasted or dustless blasted in place and painted? Or are we not exposing enough to maybe get the top of the purlins, or is that just been kind of written off for time delays or for the time it would take to do that?
Yeah, exactly. So there are some purlins that have, we've deemed enough section loss that they don't have the structural capacity, so they would need to be changed, and quite a few of those. Some of the others, if we were to sandblast them, it's very difficult. First of all, the dust, inside an operating building, you can do all we can push the contractor for dust control measures, but you're still going to get dust everywhere. It's hard to control. And yeah, it's basically just accessibility. There's a lot of surface area. Again, it's covered under an allowance. We have a certain allowance, what we've spent a lot on, and we would project that we're definitely going to exceed that allowance by quite a bit. So we felt, in lieu of spending additional money on trying to, paint and prime the existing purlins, to the best of our ability, that it would be better spent. We've finished the main frames, now replacing the purlins in place of trying to, I guess, salvage as many as we could.
And I guess a supplemental to that, do we have any idea what the turnaround time on new purlins would be, like delivery date for them?
Yeah, so the general is, so when he's submitted his change order, he's saying mid-July. So it's on a schedule. So they've, doing their best to expedite it. We would have to review shop drawings in a week. Once we have approval on the change order, we have a week to review shop drawings. And then the delivery is anticipated mid-July.
Okay, thanks for now.
Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the update. I had a question similar to Councillor McDonnell, and in terms of the purlins. I mean, I don't know if you'd have an idea of kind of giving us a ballpark price, kind of the cost of trying to reuse existing versus obviously the new purlins is quoted at $260,000. Would you have an idea, I guess, on how much it would cost if we tried to reuse an existing and rehab it? I guess time would be a factor there as well. I mean, I am leaning towards obviously new, based on as well, if we do have to replace these after and it voids the warranty on the roof, that's another factor in there as well. I mean, so this wasn't a foreseen issue. So even if we went and rehabbed, I feel like we're going to be behind schedule. So I would like to do it right. So I am leaning towards the new purlins, but do you have, I guess, an idea of how much it would cost, ballpark, if we did try to rehab the old ones?
No, we don't have anything in writing or a submission from the contractor. We did have conversations. I had a conversation with the general, and he's expecting at least 100,000 more. 150 is what he told me. Now, again, we don't have anything concrete on that, but it is a significant effort, and the ability to control it, and the inspection process would be very costly. I just think that sections would be missed. Like, it may look okay, but then we would prime it and paint it, and over time, then we may have more corrosion or paint warranty issues and battles with the contractor to, and as well, there's still purlins that definitely would have to be replaced that we would not leave up there.
Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for the report. The purlins on the ceiling, the purlins on the walls, are they good or they have to be changed as well? Are we looking at changing all of them?
No, so we're just, on the roof, the purlins on the walls, they call them GURPS, but you're right, similar thing. There's, so they're all exposed now. We are changing, right on the northeast corner where the door was, there was a bad leak, so we're changing 3 there. That's a change order. The other ones so far are okay. As part of the contract, we are changing the base purlin all around the perimeter, assuming that was corroded, which it is just because it's at low level. So the base channel, it is being changed with double angles to support the cladding and the interior liner. The rest of the GURPS are remaining.
Follow? I'm in favor of changing them. This is 40, 50 years after the building's built. I'm not wanting to have to do this 10 years from now again. I think let's get another 40 or 50 years out of it. My concern is the 7 to 8 weeks. And I know we're going to have to mid-July before we get the other ones in, but is there not work that they can continue on? Like, can they put the wall panels on instead of the roof? You know, like, what can be done to make this thing go a little quicker so that we're not losing that 7 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, so we've talked to the contractor. We're in discussions, and we'll continue to talk with them and their subs. There is still there's all interior liner that needs to go up. The order of operation, though, is the roof goes on and then the wall panels, because the wall panel, like the outside cladding I'm talking about, go up and fit to the underside of the roof. So you really need to have the roof on before the outside cladding could start. But the interior works, including the new interior liner, and mechanical and electrical works, that will continue. The painting, which is it's near complete, but of what's exposed now. So yeah, any of the interior works is continuing.
I think it'd be great if we could shave that 7 to 8 weeks down to 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah,
That would,
That would
be
be
more
great, yeah.
reasonable for me.
yeah.
Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. I have a few, like, maybe shorter questions rather than giving a whole bunch at once. Might be easier that way. Thank you very much for coming to explain to us in more detail. Certainly, like, the level of detail you've given. I didn't realize how thin they were. That was definitely a learning for me while you were speaking. I was hoping, could you give sort of like a percentage of, in terms of what's there now, the percentage of what you think has lost its structural integrity, or what, you know, you're saying would need to be replaced regardless, percentage of what's out there?
Yeah, it's difficult to say for certain, but, you know, 40% maybe, yeah.
That my reaction is that I didn't think it was quite that high, but
Yeah,
and I think Councillor Bougie was sort of touching on this as well, in terms of, it sounds like all this rehab work, there's more than we anticipated, and that was going to be extending the timelines likely as well, or is that not a fair assumption?
yeah, that'd be correct. I mean, with an existing building, you always, you know, especially of this age, there are unknowns as you start to demo and expose parts of the building, which there's still parts to expose, to be honest. But the rink area is, we have a good look in the rink area, so we have a good idea within that space of what needs to be done, so, yeah.
Sorry, my last one, and this might be at this point a bit a moot point, but in terms of when you're saying if there were a failure, what would a failure look like in this context?
Like if a purlin were to fail, so it supports, they span 20 feet, and they support a 5-foot strip of roof, so that would be the area. It would be local, but not good, no.
Last one? Okay, last one. Sorry, I think I already said the last one was the last one, but this is really the last one. In terms of the structural integrity of the overall roof, I'm assuming that if we change them all, it's going to bring us back to the baseline. And the reason I'm asking this is I think at some point you did an analysis for us on whether or not the roof could support solar panels, and at that time we thought the roof was not strong enough. I'm just wondering if this would change that at all.
Well, in terms of there's more to it, like the main frames would need a considerable amount of work if we were going to add more load, more dead load or collateral load than what was there before. So you'd need to reinforce the main frames. And as well, the foundations, we don't have a complete set of drawings to know what the size and dimensions of the existing footing are. So the preference or recommendation would be to stay within the weight limits that the building was constructed as. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then I suppose the good thing is we're still following, with the things we can control, we're still falling within budget. Obviously, steel coming in and out might change those numbers depending on our good friend down south. But like it's wonderful that we had that built in. And I'm reminded of a story where they said, an elevator has to have a factor of safety of perfect, because jumping across a creek, you might lose your boot, but when an elevator falls, it's catastrophic. So similar to this, we do need the roof. And you've said, what was it, 40% potentially, plus or minus, have lost their integrity. I think that's a clear signal to me. All right. Any other questions? Any? Sorry, I asked that question. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Action request 8B, award RFP 2026-07, Canteen Services, Charland Recreation Center. This is Ms. Harbers again. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-64 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award RFP 2026-07 for canteen services at the Charland Recreation Center to the Snack Shack Canteen as per their submission of $250 per month plus HST, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. Ms. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So we put out the RFP for the canteen back in May, and this year we put it out for 2 ice rental seasons, and just wondering if possibly we would get more submissions to have 2 seasons as opposed to 1, which is what we had been putting out. And we continued with getting the same contractor that's been here for the past 3 ice seasons. So we are recommending to award it to them. And something that would be a bit different than previous years is they are proposing a vending machine service. So that would be up to them to rent that out, but don't think that it's a bad idea if it's, early mornings or whatever that the canteen isn't open. So, and I did speak with the contractor this morning, obviously given the previous report that we just spoke about opening a few weeks later to make sure that they would be, still interested, given that the timelines have changed a little bit. But they aren't anticipating to open until mid-October anyway, and they did not have any issues with it. So, but that would obviously change the budget amount depending on when they did start. Any questions from council?
Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McLaughlin. Thank you, Ms. Harbers. I appreciate you being creative in terms of extending the period of time to see if there could be more interest, and certainly the idea of having a vending machine, that also sounds like an interesting way of adding service for those who use the arena. My question specifically has to do with the hours of operation that are in the staff report. Is the expectation that the canteen be open during those hours, or is that a guideline, or is that the expectation is that they're not open outside of those hours?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. These are the hours that they were submitting that they plan to open. However, given that it's one contractor, it's kind of hard to compare to others if, there was another submission that had better hours they were offering. But in the RFP, they are to stipulate what their hours would be so we could review them. However, in conversations with the contractor, if they would like to, if the community is asking for additional hours, they are certainly open to that as well. So even, we have special events or tournaments, we will send them those hours as well, and they're usually happy to work during those too.
Seeing no other questions, all those in favor? Carried. Award RFP 2026-08 supply and installation of playground in Summerstown Estates Park. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-65 be received and that the RFP 2026-08 for the supply and installation of a playground at Summerstown Estates Park be awarded to playground planners as per their submission of $59,778.29 plus HST, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all applicable documents. Ms. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So council may recall allocating 2.5 acres of parkland in Summerstown Estates for this park. So we issued an RFP back in May for the play structure of $60,000 that was included in this year's budget. And prior to this and continuing in 2026, we're doing landscape work at this park. So we will be ready for the installation of play structure in spring of 2027. So we did receive 3 design submissions, and the one up on the screen here is the design that we are recommending to be approved. It is for ages 18 months to 12 years with accessible surfacing. You'll see there's a swing set there, as well as a main structure with slide and climbers. So we are continuing to work with the community, and they are looking to fundraise for additional elements for the play structure, which we'd be happy to work with them on that. But through the budget and this project, we would be looking to award this playground as in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the presentation. Can you tell me what the difference is from option 2 to 1? Like what's the different elements? And what's the base going to be? Is it going to be wood chips or foam, or what are we doing for the base?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry if there's confusion. This is, oh, do you mean like this? These pictures here are all option 2. Is that? Oh, option 1 were submissions that came in. We don't typically show the other design options as the as part of the report, but certainly we can if council would like to see them. But we do our evaluation with staff that reviews the elements and what's all included. I will say this submission had quite a few more elements and was a lot more, if I can quickly recall our notes, there was a lot more elements here for both younger and older kids, as opposed to the other 2 options that were submitted were a lot more geared towards younger kids that may not be as appealing to ages like 8+.
Okay.
So
Just to follow up, did we consult with the Summerstown Estate Group? Did they have a preference, or were they involved in any way in this process?
we did meet with the main contact that we have for the group prior to the RFP going out to see if there's anything in particular to add to the RFP, but typically as part of the review process and confidentiality of submissions, we don't typically review submissions of actual RFPs with the community groups.
All right. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. This is great to see this progressing. I know this is something we've been discussing for some time, and I understand that the community is very much looking forward to it and is happy with what has been put forward and what's going to be moving forward. So thank you very, very much for leading this. Can't wait to when we actually get to open this this park.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, Ms. Harbers. I know you've got a lot on your plate these days, as we've seen with this this council meeting. So I appreciate you getting this back in quick order, and seeing this go forward. And it keeps with, I think, traditionally what council's been doing or has been doing over the last number of years. We provide a base playground, and if there's above and beyond wishes, the community is more than welcome to fundraise for those, but we maintain the base, and I appreciate us keeping with that, so thank you very much.
Ms. Harbers, go ahead, then we'll go to Deputy Mayor Lang.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I did not answer Councillor Bougie's question about the surfacing. It is the cedar weave mulch engineered like wood fiber surfacing, similar to Smithfield, which we would have been at, so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. If the community does do fundraising, can it be added to this, or is it, like this is planned for next year, I believe? Is there time for them to add things to it, and would it change anything that we're doing there, just be add-ons?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with the surfacing being the engineered wood fiber, we could easily add sections onto the existing section or existing playground. There's lots of room at the park as well, so we can make sure that where it is installed, there's room on, you know, the perimeter if there were to be something added, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, no further questions? All those in favor? Carried. Moving to action request 8D, South Lancaster Heritage Designation Request. This is presented by Ms. Campo, and it is moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-66 be received, and that council of the Township of South Glengarry, and there's three options, so we choose one. Option 1, proceed with the next phase of establishing a heritage conservation district in South Lancaster and issue a request for proposals for the completion of a heritage conservation district study. Option 2, proceed with the designation of individual properties in South Lancaster under the Ontario Heritage Act, limited to properties where the owner expresses interest in designation. This is what's recommended. Option 3, take no further action with respect to the establishment of heritage designations in South Lancaster. Ms. Campo, or Mrs. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This report stems from a request that council received in July of last year, and subsequently the request was deferred to the Heritage Committee for a recommendation, and that's with regards to the establishment of a Heritage Conservation District in the hamlet of South Lancaster. So due to a change in composition of the committee members, we did have a resignation. Throughout the fall, we did some recruitment and had to appoint a position. We had a little bit of delay in getting the committee convened to review the request. However, the committee did meet in March of this year. Through the first meeting, they received a very detailed presentation of the proposed conservation district from Mr. Ron Rayside, who is a resident of South Lancaster and also happens to be someone with professional knowledge about heritage designations. So we were very fortunate to have his involvement in this process. Following that presentation, the committee felt it would be important to receive feedback from the public before making a recommendation to council, and council supported that. And so we therefore went out to the public to get some feedback. So just to give a quick overview of some of that public consultation that occurred, we directly mailed a information sheet to the residents of South Lancaster that included some FAQs, information about what was being proposed, as well as a feedback form that they could either fill out and mail to the office or alternatively fill out online. We did receive, I believe it was 48 completed forms back. In addition to the direct mail out, we held 2 public consultation meetings in South Lancaster at the church, where we had quite a few folks come through, just over 40. It was a nice opportunity and an informal public meeting where members of the public could chat with staff who were present. Mr. Rayside was also present, as well as some members of council who had the opportunity to have more informal conversations with the people who this is directly affecting. So the report contains a summary of the feedback that was received, and council additionally received the feedback forms separate from the public agenda due to the personal information contained on those. So with that information, the Heritage Committee did meet again in May, received the information from the public consultation. At that time, the committee directed myself as the clerk to prepare a memo to come back to council with their recommendation. So that memo was circulated to the committee and approved by the committee. It's contained in your agenda package this evening, but to summarize that memo, the committee is recommending that should council wish to proceed with any heritage designation in South Lancaster, that it be limited to properties where the property owner has expressed interest in an individual designation. They did not recommend to proceed with the conservation district. The committee also stated that council consider looking into informal ways to recognize heritage in the in South Lancaster, such as with signage, and potentially if there's any other planning tools or anything we can look into to sort of preserve the charm and aesthetics of South Lancaster. So based on what the committees recommended in their memo, you'll note there are some options provided in the resolution, as I wanted council to be aware of all of the options before you. However, option number 2 is recommended, as that was the recommendation that came through the Heritage Committee. So those are the options that are before you. That's the recommendation that the Heritage Committee has brought forward. And subject to any questions, that is the report before you this evening.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councilor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you very much, Ms. Campo, for presenting this, and thanks to everyone who was part of this process. It was quite an involved process. It sounded like lots of people participated, both in the open houses and the direct mail outs, and also the work of the committee. A couple questions for you. When you said there was a direct mail out, can you estimate, like, sort of how many folks that would have reached, or how many households, I should say?
Absolutely. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I do know it was in the lower 80s. 82, was it 82?
So if I may, so approximately just a little bit over half responded, which is a pretty high response rate. I'm not sure how much you're able to speak to this, but I was wondering if you could provide some context around the committee's recommendation in terms of why they their eventual recommendation was individual properties versus the heritage district.
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bougie, please feel free to correct me or jump in, as you're a member of that committee as well. But I think in large part, the recommendation came from a feeling amongst the committee that they did not want to impose restrictions on residents who may not wish to have a heritage designation on their property. And wanting to sort of leave it to individuals, property owners who would like to have that heritage designation, to work with them, because there is that option as well through the Heritage Act, where you can designate an individual property versus a district. And I would say that was probably the bigger factor, but please chime in, Councillor Bougie.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. That was one of the major factors, not to impose this on others. There was obviously some people opposed. I think it was 8 or 9. Their concerns were, some of the concerns were insurance and potentially the cost of their property and maintenance going up as well. So that was another factor that the committee looked at.
Right, we'll go Councillor Jaworski, then Councillor McDonnell.
I don't want to monopolize. My next question I had, again, in terms of like feedback, is there does seem to be quite a bit of interest in the heritage designation. And so my question is, was there discussion or suggestions on if it if the recommendation is what is approved in terms of individual designation, was there discussion or recommendations or suggestions on how to make that more easier for residents, have more of a, perhaps a carrot type approach towards individual designation versus, I guess, what some of the pushback might be, you could say, in terms of the district being some folks don't want to have it imposed on them? I was wondering if there was any discussion around that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't necessarily say there was discussion on that. We are aware of who the property owners are who are interested in an individual designation, as that was part of the feedback form. So if that were the direction that council were to go in, we certainly know who would be interested in that and can reach out to them directly and chat with them about that process. But to answer your question, no, I wouldn't say that was a part of the conversation amongst the committee.
Last one, Phil. Can you elaborate on what is the township able to do in terms of facilitating that? If that's a decision that it's individual properties, how can the township, I'm assuming there probably are limits in terms of what we can do legislatively, or perhaps there isn't. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that, how we could support individual properties being designated.
If I'm understanding your question correctly, so you're asking how we can support someone if they're interested in individual designation? Yeah, that's certainly something that we would be very involved in. We've gone through that process before. There are steps that are legislated through the Ontario Heritage Act. There would be involvement from the committee. But certainly, if there is an individual property owner who wants to pursue a designation, the first step would be for them to connect with administration. That would most likely be myself, potentially Ms. Haley at a certain point if there's any planning implication. But we walk them through those steps, and really it's coordinated through the township. The property owner would not be the one contacting Ontario Heritage. Like, we would coordinate that. We are required to pass a bylaw. We register the bylaw. We do the advertising. It is very much a township facilitated process. And it's just more helpful when the property owner is on board, because there are, the property owner does not have to necessarily consent to designate if there was a specific property that council was interested in designating. And that's why there's a public process involved in legislated advertisements that have to go out. So in this case, I think we would already be a step ahead if we're working with property owners who are in favor of designating their property, and that process is coordinated through the township.
It didn't have to be your last question. If you think of another or another one comes to your mind, don't ever apologize for asking good questions. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I think I'm fine with option 2. As has been stated, it's not imposing anything on existing property owners who may not wish it. I think Ms. Campos outlined it fairly clear in my research that I've done on the Ontario Heritage Act. We could sit here and designate any property in the municipality. We pay the bill anyways. It's probably roughly about $2,000 per property that the township pays every time we register a heritage designation. And as Ms. Campos stated, the owner doesn't even have to be compliant in the entire process. It goes to a public meeting. And yeah, there's a lot of steps involved, and we are 100% involved, as far as I can tell, the entire process. So I have no problem if there are any residents outside of South Lancaster, including South Lancaster as well, who want to have their property deemed a heritage, get a heritage designation for their property. It's already within their right to, as it is now. I would say we continue with that. I don't feel there's enough compelling argument to go to a heritage designation, just in the sense that it's not like we had 100% return and unanimous support for a heritage designation. I think what we're being asked of in option 2 is fair to everybody in the community, and it exists for anybody in the municipality as a whole as it is. So I personally am very comfortable with option 2, and thanks to the committee and Councillor Bougie and the Madam Clerk for all their work on it. But interested to see what the others around the table say.
Just a question, Councillor McInerney said about 2,000 on the township side. Is there a cost for the applicant that could potentially, I know we had a little bit of discussion at budget, but it was just kind of a last minute with a comment that we could absorb to make it easier, because I don't want to, like oftentimes like a willingness to pay with and an ability to pay, you don't want to mix them. So if it's something that we can help facilitate for somebody who is interested but perhaps doesn't have the means, is that something, or how much would that be approximately? And maybe it's a per case basis and an unfair question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, through my initial research, the Heritage Act does not, there's no enabling legislation in the Heritage Act that allows the township to charge a fee to a resident for designating a property. So if we were to pursue a designation, the cost of that is borne by the township. It's not charged back to the resident. So if there's a resident who, whether it's in South Lancaster or otherwise interested in investigating a heritage designation for their home, that cost is borne by the township. And Councillor McDonnell is correct. It would likely be in the ballpark of $2,000 to $2,500, with the fee namely being for the required newspaper ad, as well as the legal fee to register the bylaw once passed. However, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I just didn't want it to be borne by, like, if it's a process, it's our process, and then that allows people to register if they so choose without a financial burden on them. Are there any other questions? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And I want to thank everybody that came out to the open house. It was nice to see that many people show up and a chance to chat with them. I'm good either way. I do like the idea of individual ones, simply because I don't like to force people to do something that they don't want to do. And I know there's quite a few houses in that area over the last number of years that have been upgraded, maybe you could say, like smaller houses, but people put addition on this sort of thing, especially along the water. They've almost all changed. But anyway, I think I would go along with the recommendation, if that's what the Heritage Committee is come up with, that we do individuals. Just so I'm clear, though, it's not the individual getting their property designated, it's the council or the township that's having this done. We would just be doing it based on their recommendation. And I just have a question: do we have a criteria for that we would have to follow, or that can anybody, is it a certain age, is it a certain style, is it a certain historical significance? Just can any property over the age of 80 years or whatever? I'm just throwing this out there. It sounds like it's us that's doing it. We would be doing it on behalf of the residents.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's an excellent question, Deputy Mayor Lang. So in the Ontario Heritage Act, I believe it is a regulation of the Act. There are characteristics laid out that I can't recall if it's one or two, but a property is required to meet certain characteristics. So if we did receive an application from someone interested in designating their property, we would assess that and determine if the property does in fact meet the criteria under the Act. So there are certain characteristics that are outlined in the legislation.
Can I do a little follow-up to that too? We've had a request not too long ago for a property to be taken off the list, if you want to call it a list. Does the township pay for that to happen as well?
Through you, Mr. Mayor? Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I guess, while we were on this topic, it was something that had come to mind when we did receive the report that the deputy mayor is referring to there, where we had a request to undesignate a property as historic. And the concern that I think was more or less cited was insurance costs. And I know it's something that's come across our consent agenda and maybe something we should look to support as we potentially go into an endeavor of designating more homes historic. There's been a number of resolutions, I think mostly coming from the city of Kingston and a few, I think another one out of Napanee, asking the province to act on their, act with the insurance companies to limit the cost of insurance on heritage designated properties. I think it was stated in that resolution, if I'm not mistaken, that the province has put out legislation that says that insurance companies can't charge more for insurance on heritage designated properties, but the insurance companies do, because I don't think there's, even with legislation, they can't kind of price or set a price on the cost of their operations or their business or whatnot. So just maybe something we should pass if we are going to go down this, and something for any residents that are considering this, that talk to your insurance broker before going through this process and get an idea of what it will cost you as opposed to what it costs you today. So just something for the public as well.
Yeah, there was a number stated to me, I think, from one of a potential buyer for that property, but I forget what it was. I did send them to Councillor Bougie as a member of the Heritage Committee. I don't know if you remember what the consequence of that designation was for getting insurance. And not to put you on the spot, if you think of it, let us know. I saw Councillor Jaworski with a question.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Like, in terms of the options, like I'm a little bit torn between like the recommendation of the committee and like designating the full district. Why I'm sort of torn is that I am, there's an element of looking at this from a financial perspective and, looking at the number of properties that would be designated, the approximate cost, then comparing that with an overall like district designation. I know there was a number quoted in the staff report. However, I assume that that's not like an all said and done cost to doing the district, that's sort of like the first step that would be required, and then there would be additional costs to that. 50 days. So probably in terms of like, assuming if we could get more folks to be interested in designating their individual properties, that might be a way of getting, I feel that we would get more interest and support for doing this. We'd perhaps get folks, positively involved in this versus imposing them. My other concern is timeline in terms of doing the district. I don't want to be overly catastrophic or cynical, but I know in certain situations when, for example, there's tree cutting bylaws and folks know that it is coming, that things are done before things are finalized to sort of not, perhaps avoid some of the stricter rules that might be coming in. So on that, do we have it, like in terms of a district, how long potentially could that whole process take, start to finish?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that answer currently. I could find out and provide that subsequently to this meeting. I couldn't say with absolute certainty right now how long that would take.
But probably fair to say that we need to have budget, we need to do our fee, like, I mean, it's a
I can
probably
say
a
we
year.
did not budget for that this year, so it would not be occurring in 2026. If it were to proceed, we probably would start, but get the ball rolling with the RFP. However, we'd certainly be looking at 2027 to begin the study that would be required.
So if I may, just on that point, like, again, that worries me, that in terms of, getting it, because I mean, fundamentally the result we want, that I think folks want, is they want, specific properties to be protected and to have that done sooner rather than later. And I still, I think the positive, like the proactive, where people will self-select, I think will ultimately get more buy-in into the process. But I also feel that I'm probably in the minority in sort of even considering the district option. However, I would look to express that if it's possible, that assuming it is the individual designation selection that goes forward, is can that message be recommunicated out to like the same groups of, like the same list of folks who would have been solicited for their opinions the first time, to let them know that this is, how it's going to proceed, and to let them know that, they could they could add themselves potentially to this list of individual designations as well moving forward.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly send a letter notice to the residents, same mailing list that the initial notice went out to inform them of whatever the decision is this evening. And I could see that being an opportunity to inform them of options moving forward. And as previously noted, the process for designation is a public process, so there'll certainly be information out in the public, so folks will be aware as designations, should they occur, go through. They'll can keep the momentum going in that way, but certainly there are ways we can continue to keep the community informed. I think this process was an excellent exercise in community engagement, and certainly with my communications hat on, I learned a lot through this process and was very glad to see the engagement that we got through it. So this is a group that was very, very involved and obviously very passionate about this. So I'm sure we can continue the conversation.
If I may, thinking for a future budget, if that could be something that could be also thought about, is, there was a mention of how to more improve like the recognition of historical features in that location. I don't know which department would take a look at that, about including that in the budget, or even like a proposal for a future budget, like a 2027 budget, about what could be done to improve signage or what have you. That's a me request, but obviously it comes to all of council for decision.
And additionally, I'm sure you're aware from the map, there were, was it 8 to a dozen homes particularly that were highlighted in terms of like, if not the district, then these ones. So I know we can't highlight and make people do it, but it would be something to contact the key individuals to, when we do that mailer out to, I think you said 82 households it was. Yep. Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, and through Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank the Heritage Committee for spending time and really thoroughly thinking through the decision. And I'd like to thank Ms. Compo for kind of facilitating all of this, the open house and the meeting. So it was a big learning experience. Mr. Rayside was a valuable member, giving us that education throughout the process. So I am in favor of option 2, as is the Heritage Committee. But we did kind of discuss if there is a big upkeep, and we do see a lot of properties registering in that South Lancaster area, that we could potentially bring it back years down the road and maybe revisit the Heritage District, depending on the uptake of the individual property owners registering. So that was another thing that was discussed as well. But yeah, it was great engagement, and yeah, I am in favor of option 2.
All right, it seems the comments have been given. It seems there's a lenience or a leaning towards option 2, so I will read it as option 2. If it votes in favor or opposed, I guess we can always bring it back if it's option 1. So then, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-66 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry chooses option 2, proceed with the designation of individual properties in South Lancaster under the Ontario Heritage Act, limited to properties where the owner expresses interest in the designation. All those in favor? Carried. We'll now move to key information reports. 10A, update on firefighter certification, OREG 34322, Fire Protection and Prevention Act. Mr. Robertson, please proceed.
Good evening, council. Sorry. I had hoped that, or we had hoped that Deputy Chafe would be able to be here this evening to present this. He, as our training officer, and a number of our active training staff worked very, very hard to get to this good news story. He's actually busy tonight prepping some of our future leaders and some of our current leaders on a big final exam that's happening at the end of the week. So that's another area where we're excited, and I'll share that in a moment. So in 2022, the province amended the Fire Protection and Prevention Act with a new regulation revolving around firefighter certification. All firefighters in Ontario, be they career firefighters, be they volunteer, be they part-time firefighters, all firefighters have to be trained to the exact same standard. We provide the exact same service anywhere in Ontario for the most part. And so this was something that was brought in to ensure that all fire staff were trained to the various services that we provide in our individual municipalities. And so the last 4 years, you know, I've brought a number of updates to council over on a number of different topics related to this over the years, but our staff have worked very, very hard to get here. The various things that we've been working towards, the standards that were chosen for South Glengarry, basically were hazardous materials response. Almost all responses that fire services go to have some degree of hazardous material, be they air quality, be they chemical, those types of things. The second one, standard for firefighter professional qualifications. This is the standard that speaks to the services that we provide for all structure fire efforts. And then our supervisor standard would be our fire officer standard. So those are the items at this point that we're training all of our staff to. There are some other courses, specialty technical operations that we'll be training staff to, but this evening the first phase of this certification was for all staff. So the deadline for this first stage is July 1st of 2026. And basically, I mean, I'll mention it again, but we're very pleased to share that all of our staff will meet that certification, and will be fully certified, all of our staff, as we move forward past the deadline. Just a real quick, we determined what services we provided to the community. We just determined what training was required. We redesigned our training program, both under Deputy Chief Training Officer Chafe and all of our training staff who came before him. We've revamped it. The efforts that our staff have put together has been excellent. We've had excellent uptake of the new responsibilities and requirements. So it's been a pleasure to see how we got to where we are today. So and how we move forward. So yeah, I more or less I just wanted to provide council with an update that we will meet the certification standard, and we move forward into the second stage, which is around technical rescue. And council will recall I spoke to you about an agreement we have with the Ottawa Fire Service to provide some of those services that we don't provide in-house, but there are some such as ice water rescue, advanced auto extrication, items like that we will continue to train our staff to, and we move forward with those, that second stage. But we also continue to provide these courses to our new recruits every year. So I want to thank all of our staff. It's been a period of change. It's been a lot of hard work that they've put in, and they've done an excellent job, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Fire Chief Robertson, for the update and congratulations. I mean, 86 personnel is to train over that amount of time is no small feat, and I mean, the community is lucky to have you and all of our fire personnel in South Glengarry, so thank you very much.
Just a question, did any of these or all of them benefit from the regional training? Does that include any of this that you did with the other municipalities?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. The regional efforts that we've been providing in the last year have revolved around recruits that joined our department in 2026. Prior to that, we've always had some degree of regional training and assisting with our neighbors with various types of training. So yes, but in 2026, it was specific to our new recruits.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you very much, Chief Robertson, for bringing this forward, and congratulations on it, on the achieving this level of certification. I just, when you mentioned, when the mayor mentioned about the regional training, I did want to just mention, like anecdotally, that I knew one of the new recruits from 2026 who was a hockey coach of one of my kids. And this is someone with quite a bit of, outside experience, mature, let's call him mature rookie. And they spoke extremely positively of the regional training that was done. Just the great, the way it was organized, the team atmosphere, very positive. So I wanted to share that with everyone. It's really, really well received, and that just bodes well. When you get that kind of feedback from someone who's new to it, that just bodes well for those positive messages to go out to the community and potentially get other applicants as well. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And congratulations. I remember when we first started talking about it, it looked pretty daunting at the time. And anyway, it's good to see. And as you got in your report, maybe 10 members of kind of, but I think a lot of those 10 members that maybe didn't go through the training were kind of at, like I think of Greg, he said it's 25 years. He said it was time for something different. So I think for the most part, it's been pretty positive, but a lot of work. So congratulations.
Thank you for the positive report. All right, we will move then to consent agenda. 11F, Better Regional Governance Act. That was me, just in regards to kind of the continued movement towards, we'll say, the provincial government into some of our, what we seem, I guess, quietly as democracy. I believe this one is whenever a mayor is absent, they have the right to appoint in this particular one. And it kind of goes on that, if I read it right, I hope I read it right now, it kind of saw to me as like another half step into democracy similar to the Strong Mayors Act. So I would just maybe ask that if we can present, have a resolution, and if anybody wants to second it for next meeting, that we can have that discussion. If not, then we just don't talk about it. It's fine. Okay. Sorry, I saw Councillor McDonnell and then Deputy Mayor Lang.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't mind moving it in general. Just I would just have the clerk maybe strike the last whereas right before therefore be it resolved.
So it will be brought forward for discussion at our next meeting. Resolution return to property tax reassessment cycle, Township of North Glengarry. I believe this was Deputy Mayor Lang.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And just a word on the last resolution. It would be nice if, when staff bring it back, just to give us just look into it a little bit to see exactly. This is the first I've heard of it, was when I read this. I knew about the strong mayor powers. I didn't realize that they were having the ability to remove mayors and replace them with somebody else. So just kind of give us a little update on it to make sure that it is what we're reading here. And I would be happy to talk about it. I think Councillor McDonnell's right. The last whereas is kind of a little too political. It's not to the point there. So maybe it could be removed. Back to the other one is, I don't have it right in front of me, but generally the Warden's Caucus is as we have done in the past, promoting that impact get up to date and get their numbers up to date. It's kind of ridiculous. We've put something forward before, but I would like to support Warden's Caucus as well. So if something come back next month, it would be nice to kind of keep it front and center with the government. They have never been able to give me an answer that I thought made any sense to why they're not. We have these people hired. We're putting in, countywide, we're putting $1.2 million into impact every year, and we're really not getting the numbers we need. So it would be nice if we keep pushing them.
All right. So those will come as support resolutions for next meeting. So to read the consent agenda, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Boards and committee updates at the County Council, and please, Deputy Mayor Lang, let me know if I've missed something. The auditors came, and I believe there was a fairly sizable surplus. My writing's not perfect here. I think of it as $1.83 million. That's across different items. OPP, they had their frontline hours have gone up from 160 to 176 to 184 hours in the last 3 years. However, the big four common calls have decreased over that time. So it's kind of a changing of, and we've seen that with the MCERT program, a little bit more social services than typical big four police items. AI, there was the adoption of a policy. It's borne heavily on the Eastern Ontario Wardens group or the IT group that they have. There is going to be a red line of what staff can and can't do. Something funny that came up in my mind was there's going to be AI bots attacking our system, and so we need AI bots defending it. And it reminds me of one of those like auto reply messages, like if you have both set up, it's just gonna keep going. So that tickled my fancy, even though it's kind of scary. Culverts, there's an estimated surplus of 22.7 thousand. Spending 370,000 on some culverts. Some of that work will be done in 2027. And a number that was kind of keen was 45% the cost to line them versus replacement. Insurance is going up 4%. Their insurance is at 296,000. Had a bunch of info reports, asset management plan update, OPA 33, which has to do with employment district, I believe, and some advocacy on that half. Bridge report is fairly fulsome. Things are proceeding decently. Roads report, they're kind of afraid of the asphalt index. Is that asphalt index or pavement PCI, ACI, whatever that is, quite the worry. Nice to see the gas prices come down from $1.68 to $1.51. So let's get those out now because that will affect us big time. Tree planting roadside, there will be a committee formed, so that will come in 2027. Alto, we said we don't support currently. I saw on CBC radio, on news before I came here, didn't read the whole article, that there is some consideration to come through Kingston, the 401 corridor. As I said, read the title, not the article, so I don't know. But that's kind of the advocation that we're taking is there's already a corridor there, don't cut through our rural land. And if you recall me at strategic planning, I quoted the gentleman from Wealth of Nations saying, like our waterways, our roadways, and our bridges are what keeps urban and rural municipalities or citizens on an equal footing. So Alto would kind of cut that out. So I'm happy that there seems to be some discussion going that way, and certainly all the rural municipalities are kind of banding together with that one. And that was the conversation there. Was there any other boards reporting? Yes, and Deputy Mayor Lang, if you have anything to add too.
Yeah, an excellent report. You covered pretty well everything that was discussed. I just wanted to add one little thing that I don't know if anybody watched or not, but just if they did and they're a little concerned, our reserves dropped from 31 million down to 22 million. But we also we used a little more reserve than we had planned because we didn't go into debt for County Road 2022 from Maxville to 138. So that's kind of the reason our reserves dropped there.
Yes, thank you. That's good context because without it, it looks scarier than it is. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. Unfortunately, because of scheduling, I haven't been able to attend many of the Northwestern Loyalist Museum meetings. However, a couple of things I could share is the trivia night. I don't know if anyone would have heard about how successful the trivia night was that they had about a month ago. There was the proceeds of the event where it was $9,000, and our local museum gets just under half of that. So a very successful event, and I would say, having been in attendance, you could see that it was a lot of fun. And to be completely honest, I was quite pleasantly surprised by the range in age of participants. I thought there was a pretty nice diversity there. So that was good to see lots of folks from different ages coming together. And then just a quick shout out that the museum continues to do their tea talks throughout the summer months. And so those are the 25th, so they come up there on Thursday, so the 25th, July 9th, July 23rd, they always have very interesting topics. Like they had one recently was Paige McLaughlin discussing that, like Highland dancing in Glengarry. So lots of interesting topics if folks are available during the day on Thursdays. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you. And we will be placing at Deputy Mayor Lang's an update from the mayor, but we'll do that in the first, and then we'll recap the previous month. So that was taken into consideration. We'll do it once a month instead of every 2 weeks. And cheeky to myself, if you look at this picture that's on right now, everybody tells me to take my space, and I don't think I took my space in that picture. I'm very hidden. But that's just a how not to do, take your space moment. So, confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-42, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 22nd day of June 2026. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 8:01 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Have a very good evening, everyone.